Thursday, we're gonna make that an early day for sure.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Finance Committee meeting. It is February 1st, and this is our second meeting where we are reviewing budgets with departments. And so we have the Council on Aging with us here tonight. I think that we should take a minute and go around the room and introduce ourselves. If we'll start with the Finance Committee, and then we'll introduce. So,
Bill No, Finance Committee. Nice to meet you all.
hi. And I'm Ruth Rivard, Chair of the Finance Committee.
Sarah McGrath.
Rebecca, Town Administrator, nice to see you all.
Again,
I'm Barbara Sanborn on the Council on Aging Board.
Deborah Stevenson on the Council on Aging Board.
Sean Cass, the new director as of yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Welcome
And,
aboard.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
and Laurel Pahalski, Chair of the Council on Aging Board.
Okay. Thank you for coming, thank you for your time, and thank you for being part of the process where we just got a new director. It's good news and it's exciting, and welcome to Groveland. So what we do when we have our budget meetings, we just take the time to meet with all of the different departments. We hear about your goals, you hear about what the budget represents, and then we don't make any decisions at this point in time. What we do is we meet with everybody, we gather information, and then we work as a group, and we work with the town administrator to discuss the various competing needs, priorities, and the resources that we have. So if you want to start, and I don't know, probably,
Well, I submitted it.
So you can kick it off,
Sean
and then I'll
has
help.
started yesterday, so he's
I'll help.
getting up to speed. But, yes, well, I shouldn't say that. Yes, I submitted it with the board behind me.
yep,
So basically, a couple of things may have changed in the meantime, now that we have a new director. But as far as our goals,
yep.
I don't believe they've changed. We might have added one or two. But the original number one goal was to attract and retain engaged and qualified staff to fully implement our mission statement by offering wages that are in keeping with municipal standards and communities comparable to Groveland. Well, we do have qualified staff director. We have an interim outreach worker who was just hired 2 weeks ago, only working 2 days a week and, doing what she can in outreach. The pantry's pretty much been run on the other days by volunteers. Thank you, volunteers.
I
So
will
that-
echo, thank you, volunteers.
And also, another goal is to increase support of elders and the general public who are suffering from food insecurity, and to leverage programming and resources to provide a sense of community for the growing senior population. And I think Sean might have more goals that he's thought of just in his 1.5 day or 2 days here.
No,
So
I
I'm
think-
leaving it to him.
I think Laurel said it well. The only thing that I would just, to provide some additional context, I think, in the terms of outreach, I think those needs have evolved a little bit with the pandemic and whatnot. So I think a few years ago, it may have looked a little different. It may have been a little bit lighter in terms of connecting to resources, healthcare connections, Medicare, Medicaid, that kind of thing. There's a lot that has happened as a result of the pandemic in terms of mental health outreach. So just merely checking on folks by way of our programs, whether it's meal delivery or what have you, has become even more important. So as we look at the budget today, our goal is to kind of keep some of the changes that has occurred as a result of the pandemic in mind, and see how we can grow from there with what we have.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
So, we were told that, pretty much the 2% increase in wages, and we went across that way. Another goal we have is the assistant director is a new position. We no longer have a program coordinator. It happens to be one and the same person, but she's now assistant director with more job responsibilities. We would like the town to pick up more of the percentage of pay. We were paying her with 2 grants, plus what the town was offering, trying to get away from using a whole lot of grant money to pay for, positions, or at least not have that much of the grant money be used for positions. It should be, for programs, for that kind of thing. And it was suggested that we do increase the percentage above 2. It says 3% because I could not write 2.4. It would not take that in my, my piece. But the outreach coordinator to increase that amount. But seeing the new wage study, it's like, whoa, we really are behind there. And that is one of our really, I would say right now, one of our major things that we need is more outreach and more time for people to be doing that outreach. Yes, we're managing, volunteers, thank goodness, are managing the food pantry. How long can that continue to happen? But outreach is so much more than just the food pantry, and we are not qualified to do that, So we really need a dedicated person. We lost our outreach worker in November, or October? November. So, and the van drivers, that's kind of, there are 2 different ways. We're trying to if we saved money, we could maybe just do it with 1 van driver, but then what happens on those other days? It's a part-time position, so we eliminated that. And a major thing right now, the expense items, our expense approved was $3,000. We're even being very, asking for $500 increase. I think we need more. As of this time, our expense line, it was reduced from $6,000 to $3,000 last year. This doesn't even cover the T-Mobile account bills or my senior center subscription. We now, to this date, have $48.93 left in our expense line item. For the van line, we were decreased from $5,000 to $1,500. And, I know the thought was, well, you have a new van. Well, the gas, inspection stickers, oil changes, all of that, we now have $62 left, $62.05 left in that van line item. So we're requesting it at least to go up, if we doubled what we got for the van, I know maybe prices of gas are going to go down, but that would maybe probably continue to go up. But anyway, this was our original request, but I'm going to let you take
Sure.
over now because you have some other ideas.
No, just for some context. So
Yes.
I think what Laurel presented here, there's a couple of things that, as we look at it, I want to be mindful of. What this proposal that's here does, it puts us very dependent on grants, even still. Maybe not as much as, 2 years ago, but certainly, even still. That is, if we want to maintain consistent level of service across all programs. So when I think about programs, and services, I think of everything. So if we don't want to detract from one in order to fund something else, in order to do kind of an equal or fund equally and maintain, it really doesn't lessen our dependency on grants that much. Between this year, next year, fiscal year 24 and 25. Because the way that I had been looking at it in my 24 hours that I've been here is, if it's possible, I don't want it to take away from a particular program in order to fund something else. I don't want to take away funds from programs in order to fund salaries, that type of thing. So as I looked at this, I think, on its face, obviously the numbers are fairly close to level funding with the exception of a couple of $1,000s. I think the general expense bucket is certainly something that is a little bit of a concern, but what it does is it puts us very dependent on the grants, and it puts us very dependent on our revolving account, which is like our gift or donation account. And right now, we don't really, and I say that, right now, we don't have consistent donors in terms of, businesses that will give us something every month or every quarter. We rely on individual donations based on when they're able to do that. And so it's not necessarily, not that they're ever predictable, but there certainly isn't something that is a little bit consistent about it. So I think that's still my concern with what the numbers that we're seeing here. And it also means that we're very dependent on grants if we want to bring our outreach worker, not necessarily expand by adding another person, but if we want to take our outreach worker, go up to the full 18 hours that's allotted at the rate that is on par with the current market and the study that was done, and keep the second van, and fulfill obligations or commitments, if you will, on prior discussions regarding salary increases, it really puts things very razor thin, to the tune of about $1,600 going into fiscal year '25. And that's assuming that nothing goes down, the formula grant doesn't go down. The Department of Transportation grant that we have is we'd have to reapply. We may get it, we may don't. I never factor in we're going to get something. I kind of just go with what I might know for sure. And based on that, it's about $1,600. So that, that gives me a little bit of agita in terms of that. Not necessarily, a situation that I think I would voluntarily put myself in if I given the option. But at the same time, how do we balance keeping the programs, the integrity of all of the programs, and maybe satisfy some of the prior commitments that may have been made with regard to salary at the same time? Is there a balance?
Right. I hear you. The funding positions or supplementing positions through a grant is concerning. It wasn't, I mean, correct me, redirect me if you want, but just for a little bit of context, it wasn't something that initiated with this board or the Board of Selectmen. It was something that, the
COA has done for many years.
well, the formula grant, yes, and then there was an additional grant 1 or 2 years ago, and there was always a little bit of trepidation about, well, now we're getting into a little bit of sticky territory, but we also didn't want to discourage
Right.
the creativity and the initiative that any board would take. So that's kind of just how it came about and how it evolved,
Yeah.
and now we find ourselves sort of in a fairly predictable conversation about how are we going to manage this going forward.
Right.
So
And so as we think about that question, the answer to that question, as I sit here within the last 24 hours, and I took the long way home, on my way home last night, and thought about this, it really comes down to a couple of things. Do we, one, do we agree as a group or, as a committee that the salaries that are listed here are the salaries for the ones that are controllable and forecastable? And if we do we agree that we need to do that all at one time, using the grants, the money, or do we take more of a gradual approach? But at the same time, are we kicking the ball down the road, right?
Yeah.
So what one does is it buys us a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But I think it does buy me a little bit more time. But it does buy us a little bit more time, but I don't know that, based on prior commitments or any kind of conversation, if it really solves, for that much. So I think we have to tackle or consider the dollar amount that's there, weighed with prior commitments, and see what's the best balance to go forward.
Yep.
If I had my way, I would take all of the salaries and I would put them in the town operating budgets, and I would use the grants specifically and I would keep it very clean. If I could get there eventually, that would be amazing. That's what I would like to do, because it keeps everything very neat, and also from a reporting standpoint, both at the state level, it makes just everything easier, right? So.
Now that we have an assistant director's
Mhm.
position, it's highly unusual that person would be funded out of the operating budget, 100%. I can understand using grant money for projects,
Mhm.
but you have to have the grant money. And if you don't, then you cut the project. This is a full-time employee.
Right.
Is she paid by the hour, or is?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, there are labor laws here that we're close to.
But you know what?
We've already violated. So we need to fix that. I didn't because this is running outside the operating budget. So we go to town meeting, you got this little fund, you got a fund, and you got like a revolving account, that's fine.
That's,
But-
yeah, that's,
Now that, before event planner, this and that, you get it, but now that we boosted her up into
assistant.
with more responsibility. this has
Changes
gotta
the
be-
landscape a
this
little
has
bit.
gotta- Little bit, it's
Right.
gotta be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is we've used money before to augment, okay, but they were given a project and we had the money.
Right.
So, because I heard a lot of dissension a few months ago that we didn't know if the grant money was gonna come, and you were already gonna give her the money. Is that all fixed now? for this
As
year?
of January 3rd, yes.
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 Okay,
And this is a fairly new board.
yeah.
Again, we've had a lot of
I applaud you guys for stepping up. 'cause
And we
you
do,
know
we
that
appreciate.
Yeah.
We had no council on aging except for one individual, and you guys went, and Laura, you went overboard.
Thank you.
And you recruited, and you should be
Thank you.
applauded.
But this is not my,
Yeah,
I agree. My preference is, salary amount aside, my preference is that we get it as much into the operating budget as we possibly can. And I think
Yes.
we have to, if that's the priority, then the next question becomes, okay, what's the balance? What's feasible to do that? So,
What's feasible is a good question.
Right.
Just a little bit of context there too, I hear the struggle from all of you. The struggle exists here, it exists here. The fact of the matter is, we're in a community where we can increase our taxes by 2.5% annually. And aside from new growth, which hasn't been robust, it hasn't been meaningful to really change the story. And then you likely have heard that we have a school budget that is going up by far, which is over 60% of our budget, is going up by far more than 2.5%. So if the school takes, if 60+% of our budget is increasing by 3, 4, 5%, that 2.5% on the other side, it's just getting squeezed and squeezed. We have a seat for you over there, Alex, thank you. So that's really the crux of the issue, is that we have limited resources, and we hear you, and which is why the year before last, coming out of COVID, I really made a full-on push to get a new van for the seniors, because the van was, I know, an issue, and I said the seniors were affected in a unique way during COVID, and now that COVID has passed and people can come out again, the van's got to work. We have to, that's one thing that we can do
I agree.
at this point in
Without
time.
question.
So we did that. We are taking into consideration what we can, and we will continue to take into consideration what we can. And I hear you about trying to get off the grants. I think it was a creative solution.
Absolutely.
That
I think it's
creates
well-intentioned, for
some
sure.
tension.
and some of it was
Well-intentioned.
history too, because we always used formula grants to
Always use
supplement
formula grants for hours.
outreach
for-
and
Yep.
for van drivers
Yep.
and for the program coordinator.
Yep.
So I think wherever that, I don't know how far back that went, but that's how I learned what a formula
At least
grant
7
was.
years.
Okay, so, I mean, I think that was just, well, we've always used it for part of the salaries.
I just think the percentages.
The
increased
percentage.
quite a
The
bit.
percentage shifted
Mm-hmm.
last year when there was an initiative to
Right.
try to make some changes.
Right.
So, and now we find ourselves revisiting that. So that, it needs to be considered. I hear you. But we need to
Work together.
Right.
find where we can, find those
So
resources.
like, that's why I was sorry, but we'll give this
So
up
it's-
if we can have that. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
I
wait a minute,
agree.
you know, that's-
It's a,
Compromise.
it
Yeah.
is, it is.
Yeah.
So. Any further questions or discussion? I don't know if you have, if that's the
have more to
basis.
say?
I know Sarah has been actively involved, and I appreciate having a role on the committee the search committee.
They did it all.
And she's been coming to our meetings
And
too.
she took it
which
upon
is
herself
good,
to,
Right,
yeah.
which has
So.
been, she has heard where we are and what we're attempting to do, and it's this, so, yeah.
So, do you have anybody else have any other questions or comments or further discussion? And this is you
Yeah.
want to introduce yourself? Because we
Yeah,
did
nice to meet you
introductions.
guys. Alex Woods.
Hi, Alex.
Recent resident to the town of Groveland. Hope you guys
Good, and right on the board, good.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, and we're the COA. Well,
I
this
figured
is,
that's fine.
no, well, this is our new director.
Well, no, not like that, not like that,
What did she
no. I said
say?
everyone had like the council aging.
I get it.
The budget part. I get where you're going with
That's
that.
funny.
Deb. I
But,
get it.
but Alex, this is our new director, Sean Cass, who just started yesterday.
Nice
So,
to meet you.
and the rest of us are board members, so, yeah.
So he's on the payroll now?
Yes, effective yesterday.
I am.
I
Yes.
hope. You signed everything, right?
Yes, oh yes, I'm good to go.
With no grants.
With no grants, no, his
How old
is
is the
full.
van now?
You're-
Excuse me?
How old is the van now?
It's a little over a year old. I think we got it in her, I want to say September, August?
Yeah, I
Late-
would say
late summer.
fall. There was a,
Late
yeah.
summer, early fall. Recently, we had to have it taken back to a place, it was still under warranty, so it didn't cost anything. The air conditioning and heating system were really crazy.
Yeah.
And that was a process, but we are, it's all fixed, well, as far as we know. You can't really turn the air conditioner on like this in this weather. But the next warm day, they're going to drive around and turn the air conditioner on to see. Right, exactly.
Hopefully that happens soon.
Yeah, it
Back in
was-
the day, we used to lease a van, right?
Yes,
And
from the M something, a
Mr.
bunch of
Valley
letters,
Rapid
yeah.
Transit Authority.
Right,
And we were told at one time that the program didn't exist.
it doesn't,
But
That's correct.
for vans.
it does.
It does now?
Yes.
Oh,
Through conversations that Rebecca and I had with their board, that program never ended. So we really need to look at, getting on that list. And
Down the road.
maybe you've got some money if we can get on the list to get a van that we can lease for $1 a year and sell the van you have now for, some profit, we could find some money.
I wish I could remember. There was something. I was on the board then, but I was not as active then. I was just one of those people. I
The whole
took
the whole
notes.
thing was a cluster. I remember the
But,
whole.
but I thought there was
fiasco.
something that had to be, something different that we didn't qualify. I don't know. I may be wrong.
We met with Noah and the
So,
group
that-
for the fixed group that we had, they had just mentioned that at one point in time, that they were still offering that to communities.
Yeah.
And they had just been working with, I believe, the town of Newbury.
Yeah.
In order to secure their van at that point in time.
Huh.
That was what, probably a year ago?
Yeah, if that,
Okay,
maybe.
huh.
But then you'd be leasing
But-
the old vans that,
No, the,
wasn't it a van they weren't using anymore that we were leasing?
well, no, the van.
Which we were
had
putting a lot
leased
of
for
money
years and
into?
years and years, for $1, $1 a year, but, I don't know how long we had been leasing that same van for $1 a year.
Right.
I imagine at one time it was new.
It had low mileage.
Fairly new.
I had low mileage. I have a feeling that, I may be wrong, so I'm going to be quiet. I'm just thinking, I think they,
It's certainly
you're
something
right,
to
like, it's
consider
5 years old,
if we-
we're,
yeah.
we're done with
Look
it,
at
we'll give
now.
it to the,
We had
If
two
there's-
van drivers
Right.
and we needed to
Right.
have end stays, you know what I mean?
Right.
Then you have two vans, and
Right.
then maybe we're only leasing one for $1
Right.
a month, I mean,
Right.
whatever it is.
right.
But if there's also a waiting list, maybe
Right.
we want to get on it now, if the waiting list is
Right.
2 or
Well,
3
that's-
years out, by that time, our van is probably at the end of its useful life.
Was it NBR?
MVRT?
Yeah.
A.
Valley
Valley.
Rapid
Yeah.
Transit
It
Authority.
It has a
But I think
funny
they've
name,
changed their
but
name.
they have, yes.
Because now I see them at Plastow, I see them across the state lines. So they've expanded their
Well,
presence.
That's, I mean, down the road, but, yeah.
Well,
No,
we
we
can save a
appreciate,
buck,
the
right?
new van was, yes, that was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's bigger and it's, and it's been very good, up until the air conditioning didn't work on one of those 90-degree days and they were going to Boston. It was like,
But later on, we can use other people's money.
yeah, well, exactly.
And then just to circle back to, just so the board knows, under our new financial policies that we just implemented and the finance board also endorsed, there is a specific portion of that that deals with grant management. So moving forward, when a department or board or commission would like to move forward with a grant application, they have to have first a sit down and look at the ramifications, especially when they're gonna be funding salaries and how that's all broken down, including benefits and other types of accrual-based method that needs to be taken into consideration. So hopefully, like you said, it was a creative solution to the situation at the time, but moving forward, now that that policy's in place, we might be able to make sure we're doing it correctly moving forward. So I think that will help provide the protections that the board was just
Because
talking about.
I think that probably led to some ongoing,
Yeah.
we're wrapped up in it in this way because we've committed ourselves to, in the application of the grant, to be structured in a particular way. And so when do you undo that, right? So I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it was well-intentioned, it was just, over time, that's what happens. Yeah. So my goal is to,
We needed a new van, that was the best.
without question, is to undo our dependency on that as much as possible,
Yes.
with knowing that
Yeah.
happy medium is probably the way to go.
And I think, I believe that that's how the town feels too, because no one wants this sticky, if it comes, if it doesn't come.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
and, you know,
right.
I just came into this and like, oh, wow, we really are relying a lot on grants.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one thing to fund an hour or two, so that if somebody's, you know, like really, you want to bring them up to 18 hours. Because I'm not sure, I may be speaking off the top of my head, like the outreach worker, I believe, is 14 hours. And we funded 2 more hours, so that she was working 16 from the formula grant. But that was, you know, $35 or something a week, or not a whole big,
Immaterial.
I mean, you know, wasn't expending that whole formula grant down for other uses, so,
Well, that works well for the non-benefit.
right.
But we're talking,
And-
what you
and
got
that's-
is a full benefit.
Right, and that was something, I don't know if anyone at the time understood that, you know, I mean, it was eye-opening to me when I first sat down
Yeah.
and like,
It
oh,
was a
so,
complicated situation.
yeah,
It
and-
was well-intentioned and
and our hope
More
is
than
to
meets
move
the
on
eye.
and do better. So, but you know, the whole thing where these grants cannot pay for benefits. So then that's an expense for the town, and an added expense for the town if it's a full-time position.
Did you
So,
have a
I
question?
mean,
Okay. I think
we're
Sarah has a
moving on.
question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You can tell.
I
You
can
read
tell.
my
I can read your
couldn't you?
face,
I'm
yes.
like, yeah. I think the only question I have, and I'll speak for my own self, is I'd love to see most of other departments in their expense line break down their expenses, what they are. I think it's
I agree.
easier and cleaner for us to understand, like, this is their fuel line. Of course that's gonna go up because there's this, right? Oh, our postage for their newsletter, of course that's gonna go, like, those things, I think it makes it really clean and to understand and makes it easier, and there's not so many questions of like, why did this go up so much, or what is the need here? I think it just makes it really transparent and easy for us to understand, right?
Absolutely.
We don't live the day-to-day,
Right.
you know what I mean? So I just think that's the only thing I would ask.
Okay.
But I would only recommend that it might not be necessarily as part of our line items.
No.
And more internally
Yes,
to the department.
correct.
Which it is.
Yeah.
That I believe the form that you were helping our treasurer
Yes.
worked with, it said postage, and
It
it
does.
did have that breakdown.
I have it, but
not-
I was not going to just provide that to the board because I felt that that would be inappropriate.
Right. To this board, you mean.
Correct,
Yeah, 'cause
yes,
we
yes.
get that.
I was only helping Marie. I didn't want to overstep.
But, yeah, so,
Yes.
and, you know, we have cut down a
Right.
lot on postage, except for the return postage that we have to pay when we are mailing newsletters to people who are dead. And then that comes back. So we're
That's
updating all
always
of that.
It's always a nice thought.
Yeah,
Did you have
we're
another question,
updating
Sarah?
that.
Do you want me to ask another one?
No,
I
exactly.
can if you want me to. You want me to come up with some more? I think the only thing,
Next.
yeah.
Oh,
I agree, the breaking down of the
Yep.
expenses, I
Seems
think
okay.
it really helps to protect your budget. I think that it
Absolutely.
gives you more information and it,
Yeah.
you know, before, we made an effort probably about 5 years ago or so to really do that. And to me, it helped build and it helped protect budgets, because otherwise, if it's just a large number and you don't really know what it is, and when we can't make our number, you just
Right.
trim the big numbers a little bit down and.
When you
and-
really
Right,
need it.
so, I mean, just now, saying that the T-Mobile account and the subscription to the My Senior Center, which is what we need to use to get the numbers, to get the formula grants.
Yeah.
It's a program, that costs over $3,000 right there.
Right.
So that's
But you
meaningful.
don't want to limit that either. You want to provide flexibility within the line item to be used for multiple expenses if they actually go over on another. By limiting it to just your fuel line or just your postage line and the budget itself,
Right.
you don't get the chance to transfer unless it's like a year-end transfer, really. I mean,
Right,
you're.
well, she was saying sort of a supplemental information.
Oh, okay. When
Just
you
so
said
we
like
know.
list them
No, no,
out,
no.
I'm like,
It
I'm
doesn't
getting
need
nervous.
to
It doesn't
No.
necessarily comes out of the operating
But I
budget,
think
but what
if
it is,
you-
Not
right?
adding new accounts.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
that's what I mean.
no,
It starts to like
no,
make
no.
that like.
No.
Take a deep
FYI.
breath. We're
FYI,
okay.
Teresa.
I'm just looking for some more to help
She said
them.
internally,
But
not
I just
to
want
add
to
more for-
quantify it,
yeah.
that's it. I'm just looking to quantify it.
You're not
and
saying
say,
it necessarily
No.
belongs in an expense
No.
budget, right?
And that's fine, right? I think
Internally.
it makes sense, right? Where there's so many moving pieces in the council on aging, keep it as one.
I agree.
Don't add any, but help us understand why it's going up and how this is what is the effect is of
I
that.
agree.
I think that that's
Yeah.
a fair ask.
Yep,
That's all.
can be done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I believe that's what they do.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, well, we started a few minutes late, and it was scheduled for a half an hour, so we're just about at the end of that. So I was going to say, if there was any other follow-up comments, questions, any other discussion, we should have that, otherwise we should move to our next meeting, so. Is everybody good for now?
Congratulations, getting on board.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for your
thank you,
volunteerism.
thank you.
Thank you.
We
Okay.
have openings on the finance board, send your friends, send Groveland residents.
And mostly every other board.
Well, I'm advocating for this one, right here.
Hey,
Thank you so much.
I'm on
Appreciate
2
it.
boards already, thank you very
I
much.
appreciate that.
I hear you.
I hear you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
Have a good night. You too.
Too.
You too.
thank you guys for
Enjoy
coming.
the cold weather.
Oh,
The cold weather is coming.
I know, but thankfully, it's only gonna be 36 hours, and then by Tuesday, Monday's gonna be back almost to 50.
It's just gonna
Hi,
happen to
Sam.
hit.
Come on down.
Come on down.
There you go.
Hi, Sam.
Nothing outside.
Sam doesn't have an entourage.
I don't have a what?
Entourage.
No, it's just me, solo, as always.
We thought you said an aunt. Chorus. So we've all met you before. Did you meet, have you met Alex?
I
Not.
think we've seen each other, but maybe.
I've seen you at the town
Yeah,
hall meeting.
I was gonna say, I don't think we've met as
So-
a finance board member.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Alex
Excellent.
Woods is the newest member of our board.
Nice to
Soon
meet
to be
you.
Welcome.
resident to town.
Yep,
thanks for joining.
And soon is our building inspector.
got it. yeah.
He is also our zoning enforcement
And
officer.
I was gonna
So
say
many-
that.
many other
There's
things,
probably
yeah.
a few
Inspector.
more
Wears a lot of
titles
hats.
to stacked
Yeah,
on.
cool. I'm getting really long business cards.
A lot of titles.
Cool.
He's gonna go out one door and come in the other in a minute.
Yeah, we just, for the next hour and a half, it's just Sam.
Just me. No, actually, my stuff's pretty easy, I think. On the, just skipping to comments you had made about postage, mileage, those types of things. And I don't mind breaking them down, but like my department isn't a consistent postage because I can't predict who's violating what or when they're gonna, and it's all certified mail.
I was just
but-
gonna say, and it needs to be certified.
So,
We
yeah,
know
it's
that,
kind
so
of, I
that's-
mean, I certainly can take best guess, but
No.
I know where you're going. I just, I won't, it's all,
No, but I mean, for me, that makes sense, right? I understand what you're doing. Your expense makes sense to me. I know that you're using it just for postage, mailings, you know, filing of paperwork. That, you know, when we have expense items that are using for multi-use, I just want to try to understand. Also, yours went up 0%, so I, yeah. guess there's
And you
not many-
separated out software expense, and that was one of
Right,
the,
so that's the other
it was a
thing.
large portion of their expenses. And so the software expense is something that, you know, is what it is.
yeah, and my
In
software,
fairness, right, don't want to trim something, and it's their software expense, and then they can't have their own software.
yeah.
Don't
mi-
want the same thing for you.
Mine's actually pretty easy because it's sort of, it's not a revolving fund, but it works that way because it's $10 per permit. So I'm guesstimating based on somewhere around 800 permits. We'd get in the permit fee and then pay it out to them. So although it is an expense line item, we actually get paid for that first from contractors and homeowners pulling permits and then pay it out to the software company as a portion of our fee. So it's kind of a non-line item, line item.
What do you think we should have?
You,
Am I missing something?
yeah, it says the expense account is being increased by $1,000, but it says a 0% increase.
Well, the numbers.
Well, that's how I was planning on tricking you.
Well, you've done it.
I'm thinking my formula was not working in my spreadsheet, but yes.
So it was 5,000 last year, should be 6,000 for the building inspector expense?
So, yeah, it's 5,000 last year, looking to go to 6, probably same as everyone, increase postage, increase mileage.
104,034. So you've got 105,833.
So I have all of these other ones for you that were supposed to be included, and I forgot to give them to you prior to the meeting. But these are the revenue numbers, and the larger part that shows what the inscriptions are.
Okay.
You have mine, so it's already in there.
Oh, okay, good.
Sorry. So, I already did yours before I gave you yours. So it has a, yes, so you have both the revenue side and the expenditure side. It has a former prior year
Oh.
in addition to what you're seeing on their spreadsheet from ClearGov. So that might help with the numbers.
Okay.
So in this
Did I mess anything else up?
Hold on, we're gonna tell you.
I don't, well, see, actually, this was a test, so you're doing good so far.
we passed.
Good job, good job.
The reconcile numbers all stinking big, you know?
Yeah, don't make us do this anymore.
I-
I don't need any help.
I
right.
think that,
So year over year is exactly the same. I added 1,000, takes you to 104. And on the cover sheet, you're at 105,833, so something else went up.
Well,
It had to be 2% on your,
yeah, the wiring
Salary.
inspector, yeah, each one. Yeah, so none of the salaries went up 2%.
right.
You're asking for that, but they didn't go up that.
Yeah, that's,
I think that was when we had our conversation, and there might have been some confusion for you based upon the fact that you wear dual hats, both in West Newsbury
Yes.
here and then Groveland. And I think that they had all said, like, everything is level funded, stays the same, so you inputted that in ClearGov, but then in the side conversation, I was like, I think you meant to give them some.
yeah, yeah, in the other town, they were having us keep a 0 balance, and we're gonna do the COLAs after, and here we were including them. So, yeah, I did a little bit of both here, just for, you know, why not?
I'm
So
not
I
as-
think he's saying.
I'm much
level
bet-
fund 'em.
I'm sure that the detailed numbers will follow
Yeah.
through. I think that this is to have a conversation
Yeah.
about.
I'm much better at building code.
No, no, no.
Oh, you wanted your sheet back?
I thought you were being more realistic and saying, I'm gonna take one for the team.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so really, the increases are the 2% COLA and then the $1,000 in the expense line item,
Okay.
so.
And then do you want to talk about, a little bit about the mission statement and the goals?
Sure, so our primary purpose as the building department is ensuring safety in the built environment. I am very involved in a lot of educational pieces and boards. I just dropped off of one educational board that is the largest inspector training group in the Northeast. It does all our kind of Northeast states. And because I wanted to get back to a board I was on before, which is the Massachusetts Building Inspectors, Massachusetts, they got horrible acronyms. Mass Building Commissioners and Inspectors Association, the MBCIA. So I dropped off the NEBOEA to get onto the MBCIA, because we're having a lot of problems right now with our state, with the implementation of codes, with the BCCC, which is the Building Codes Coordination Committee, that is supposed to take these codes and make them not conflict. We're finding fire codes conflicting with building codes, conflicting with Mass General Law. There's new energy code. Thankfully for us, we're not a stretch community right now because it's a complete mess. DOER, through the Acts of 2021, took over promulgation of codes for energy. In doing that, the normal authority wasn't aware that they had changed the code until about a week before they implemented the code. And so none of us were notified, and none of the contractors are aware, and it's causing major issues. So tomorrow is my first board meeting back with the MBCIA to bring those code questions back to them, to bring to our speaker for this month's educational piece, which is the Mass Save program, to try and get them to explain what the heck they meant when they wrote this thing. Because it's going to have a serious effect on affordable housing, which, as we know, is a state goal to create more affordable housing, and now we've implemented a code that is going to make it very difficult to rehab existing smaller homes cost effectively. There's one in town here. I was talking with the gentleman. He said if that code applied here, he would just tear it down and build a McMansion, because that would be more cost effective for a return. So it's kind of where I like being. I like doing that sort of thing because I think building inspectors are looked at as a necessary, or maybe not even necessary, sometimes just a nuisance that comes to your job and fails you, tells you what you did wrong, picks it apart and walks away. No one likes seeing me come and visit them at their job site, but it is important. You know, we see what police and fire do responding. We really don't see what the building inspectors do by nothing happening. You know, no one goes and says, geez, I went to the movies and it was safe. I didn't, you know, there was no horrible tragedies. The building didn't collapse or catch on fire, or, you know. So it's I think, often overlooked, and I think it's getting more and more overlooked at the state level, and I just like, if nothing else, poking them and trying to get them to make our job easier to understand for the contractors out there. So anyway, as far as the goals this year, again, more into getting those code clarifications so that we understand them at a local level from the state, but also implementing more software. I've been in contact with the software development company. There's a number of pieces that will automate a larger portion of the administrative pieces of my job, which frees up time for me to do things that are, you know, take more expertise than data entry or sending out, you know, the same email over and over. I've implemented that in West Newbury. It's working great. So we're up next. We're already in the queue to receive that. It's a no-cost upgrade. And I've been working with them also with other software programs like MyMap to see if there's any type of cross-coordination with that and the permitting that we can implement. So it's, you know, other than that, you know, same old, helping out with the, you know, trying to fix any broken zoning and whatever else is demanded of me.
Well, I will say, without Sam, we would not have been able to do any of the town hall renovations. I mean, he literally stepped it up and, you know, lit a fire under me too, to be able to, you know, imagine that we can actually accomplish this. There was a lot of different moving pieces. He'd actually been out with an injury, so, I mean, it was really his coordination and his effort that kind of let us, you know, move forward with the carpets, move forward with the HVAC, move the offices, so without him, none of it would have been possible. So definitely you got to give him credit for that.
Tremendous project management skills is what you're saying.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you know, a good inspector, like any good umpire, if you're doing a great job, nobody notices you.
And that's where I want to be.
Going on fire,
I want to
floods aren't happening,
fly below the radar, be unnoticed.
but that means you're doing a great job.
It's exactly what I want, is to be invisible, which is...
Well, you're not invisible, right?
No, it's what I want. Can't see me.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rebecca, about the renovation, so thank you, because she did mention it back when it was happening, and I'm not here during the day, I don't see you, and I appreciate that too, and I have to give credit. I know that it was a lot of work from a lot of people, but I really think it just makes such a difference. I think this room looks great. I love the new sign that we have here. I love the carpet. I love that, and I think it means a lot to the employees too, that everybody got to, choose some new space, have an upgrade. It happened, along with technology upgrades, new computers and stuff. So I think that, the town hall is a place for residents to come and employees to come to work. It makes a big difference, and so.
I think so, and
Thank you.
I think it makes us feel, we like it, like we're appreciated, we see the improvements. I mean, little things like having not carpet older than you are, that's not orange. We're getting green countertops are coming out soon, so we'll get rid of the avocado green. That's all paid for through
It's gonna be
grants.
back in style.
We'll save them for you. But, with the injuries, Rebecca, Annie, everyone stepped up and started, just working as a team and doing it. So I think it brought us all together, and it also, when people come in and you have a professional environment, they treat you with that professionalism. It's my only complaint that I will fix, because it's driving me nuts standing here. The patch job
Yeah.
that was done on that back wall
It's spectacular.
is lacking. It looks like gunshots. We gotta fix that. But I do love, yes, it's
Do you
killing me
know that
sitting here.
Hydraulic cement is not an easy thing
It
to
is
patch.
not,
I'm just
but
saying.
it's
I
killing me.
didn't see that on his goals, just so I know.
Oh, it is,
Well,
that's
why we
a
invested
personal
in that,
goal.
$25 curtain that went across.
yeah. Well, those weren't there before. They were after we took things down and did some work, but it's the thought and the effort that was put into it that counts.
Agreed.
And then we ended up with an awesome logo, to just
I think the
something,
whole updated
represent-
look is.
well, it represents town hall. The fire has their own, police has their own, highway,
Yeah.
that's,
The ambiance.
That was a
Exactly.
small point, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
What is the lesson about
Cool
using
logo. I think it's
Oh,
I
but
think
town
it's-
seal?
fun and current
They
and
don't shoot the message.
Yeah, no, well, there's a difference between logo and the town seal. Town seal's official, logo's the, just our representation of our little division of town hall. So I think it's
It's nice.
good stuff. So,
I think it brings
So,
us into the 2023.
I'm needing a reminder. This is the only budget with you. I know that you have the,
so there's,
is
yes.
zoning
we-
under economic development and planning, is that?
Yes,
Okay.
Annie's got zoning now. The only other one I'll have is weights and measures, which I think is just a standard, I think it's
$700.
$750 in it. We do have a new bylaw going into place hopefully this spring, that will actually get us the fees that we should have been charging to the people that get the services of the state to check their scales and, pumps. This will come into play when we get more things like the gas station up on Salem Street, because it's a per pump price, and this is something we're footing the bill for, and we really shouldn't. So we're implementing a new way to recoup that. It's not a ton of money, but when you don't have any money is a ton of money.
It's true.
So-
Well, what I came up with, was it last year or earlier this year? Every decision matters, and it's so true. Every single decision matters. Whether it's a precedent or whether it's a baseline, you think, oh, it's no big deal, let's just go that way, and it will come back. So, yes, I agree with you.
And animal inspection, we have no budget.
But he has graciously taken on the duties of such, which has actually taken up more of his time than some of the other things.
I'm sure.
Dogs have been biting like crazy. I don't know. It's been a bitey year.
Oh,
Whatever, it's all good.
it's only been like a month. What's going on?
No, I think what did I start at? July, I think?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
It's been a lot.
but we did barn inspections with the animal control officer and, quarantined a bunch of dogs, but we're in compliance with the state. We've got good record keeping. We're all certified.
Awesome.
It doesn't cost us anything. State sends us our form work, which is nice. I'm already driving around doing inspections, so why not inspect horses and pigs?
Are there many?
Chickens.
There's more than you'd think.
Is that so?
Yeah, I
Less
was,
than in West Newbury. Do you do the same in West Newbury?
I
So
don't.
Sam works for Groveland, and he also works for West Newbury.
Oh, okay.
That's why we refer to West Newbury several times. He's also their inspector.
But
Which
no,
made the new building, the middle high school, convenient.
yeah, very, very.
Bird flu thing impacting us around here?
It is not right now, and that's part of the reason we do those inspections, is if there is some sort of outbreak, we have documentation of who owns what animals and what we need to be aware of, so that we can inform the owners, or if there's any type of mandate of, getting rid of them, we can order them removed. But thankfully, everyone keeps nice, clean chickens, horses, pigs.
Killing the egg market.
Yeah, yeah. I think they said that they should be dropping soon, because they have a whole bunch of new stock of chickens coming in, so.
They kept some of the eggs to hatch the chickens.
The chickens have been busy.
So now we figured out what happens first, the chicken or the egg.
See, no. And we have new chicken stock, which, brings me to dinner time.
Yeah. It is. So,
But, yeah, so pretty unexciting department and budget. I like it that way.
Except for you,
Just-
there's no excitement at all.
Nope, it's all the same. Daley's project potentially coming up. Did he mention anything about permitting when you saw him?
Not necessarily, but as we predicted, we're hoping that he'll pull a few permits in the upcoming year that we can capture in terms of permit fees as well as new growth.
Yeah, the
Hopefully.
permit fees should be fairly significant. I think he said each building was roughly $11 million. There's 5 buildings, and our permit fees are roughly 1% of that. So that's a good chunk of change, just in permit fees.
Has he found another egress from that property other than Salem Street?
So we have,
A.W. Chester.
right now, it is just Sewell with an emergency down Nelson. So making that loop, but yeah, there's too many turtles and wetlands around to go anywhere else, so.
There had been talks about utilizing 833 Salem Street and the road that wraps around the cell tower at one point in time, and potentially using that as another way of egress out of the site, and maybe making that more of the main entry, so they could remove it from Chesterton and being directly across from Chesterton. But I don't believe that with the new development and the new owner of that property, that would be an option. It's not completely ruled out, but I do know that that's still kind of up in the air.
Now, one time there was also talk with Chesterton thinking of working with Mr. Daly about moving their entrance to the other side of their plant. Has that gone anywhere?
No, because the traffic engineers all agree that if you're gonna have the cars entering and exiting at the same location, it should be directly across from each other. Otherwise, it's more accident prone to separate them out within a certain amount of distance, if you get the exact distance. So they said it's
Well,
safe.
no, they were talking, if you're looking at Chesterton, it'd be on the other side of their property.
Oh,
So
no,
off
I
Center
hadn't
Street.
heard about that.
Yes.
Well, there is an access point from Center Street to Chesterton.
Well,
There is,
at
but I
one
don't-
time, Chesterton had talked, I remember the conversation about working with Mr. Daly about trying to get an entrance, main entrance, not on Salem Street, but on the other side of their property, if you're looking at it, which would be huge,
Over by
because that
Atwood.
would, that would alleviate a lot of that congestion at 8 and 5. I think the light is gonna work a lot too, or it could really, that you need a light there
Nothing
at
like
the
a
end of
light.
Salem Street. Oh my God, I stayed there 20 minutes yesterday trying to get on.
Well, this is in
97.
Chelsea.
Huh?
This is in Chelsea.
It isn't. But you know
You
what?
remember that comment?
I do.
Mr. O'Neill?
I do. And that's where the phrase necessary evil comes in. Sometimes you have to do things because you have to do them, not because you necessarily like the change. But that's a necessary evil. 20 minutes, car after car, you can't get on that street.
need to drive a big truck.
It's a jungle
Or
out there.
just don't wait for the
Or a
invitation.
cab, a Boston cab. I
No,
didn't.
what's nice with a big truck that I drive is you just
You always get
go
right away,
and-
huh?
Yeah, it's great. And the junkier it gets, I find the easier it is to get in.
Yeah, yeah. When I was 17 on the Rotaries, that's how I did it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, any other questions, comments, anything? Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Thank you, guys.
For the renovation,
you.
for the work, for the,
Getting there.
you know,
Lots more to do still. It's tough to do with no money, but
Same as
We're
the
doing
Brock
it. We're
Holt
getting there.
of the town of Groveland,
we'll,
the ultimate utility player.
well, we got a nice art installation. Did you get my picture?
I did. It's
Yep.
fantastic.
So we took down the ugly bulletin board. We got nice racks going up to hang children and other artwork
where?
right out in front of the Vito room.
Oh,
So
That's nice.
but I just needed a better drill. So that brick's hard. But cool. All right.
Great. Thank
Well,
you so
you
much.
guys. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
You too.
We'll see
You
you
too.
when we see you next year.
Well, maybe
Maybe a little
in
sooner.
April.
Or if someone pulls a permit, we might see it, you never know.
Oh, permits. No one does
You'll be there at
Oh,
town
okay.
hall. You'll be there at town meeting.
that.
2 down, 2 to go. Highway is next, 20.
Ouch.
About $100,000 underwater right now? Is that what I see?
Yes, with the requested. I was actually, yeah, yes, yes.
Approximately, you know, ballpark is good enough right now.
Hello,
Good evening. Put my front and center right here.
wherever you'd like.
I don't want to steal anyone's seat.
Unless you bring a company,
Mr. O'Neill, how we doing?
never
Long time
better.
no see.
And you?
Okay.
Nice color, Yeti.
Thanks. Hey, you stole mine.
No,
You had yours first.
I actually don't.
I will yield.
So you have met all of us, probably with the exception of Alex?
Yes, I have not met Alex.
Yeah, hey, nice
Ready,
to meet you,
Cal?
Alex.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Alex Woods is the newest member of our board. We still have a couple open positions if you know of
Word of
anybody.
mouth isn't getting
Word of
around
mouth.
enough? Spread it a
I'm
little more?
always putting it out there, but
Okay.
we, we have a
Yeah.
perfectly staffed
Got a
and
functioning
functioning
board,
board, but
yeah.
it's just, there's spaces if there's anybody else that would like to participate, that's all. So, you've been through, how many? Several? 4? Yep. Budget cycles with us, so I'll just quickly reiterate that this is the time that we just meet all the departments, we have discussions, we talk about goals, we look at the budget requests. We don't make any decisions because we're just gathering information, and at the end, we'll have
Final
a
numbers.
cohesive discussion as to, with information.
Yep.
So we can make informed recommendations. So if you want to just talk a little bit about what's been going on and what your goals are for this year and touch on the budget.
Sure. So starting off, I know the craziness.
I'm sorry, for 1 second, just in case there's anybody watching, I didn't really introduce you as Rennie
We're on- we're live?
Carroll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is being
Didn't even know we were
recorded now.
recording.
We started recording them all, so.
Now I gotta sit upright.
So this is, this is our highway superintendent. So it's just that background. Thank you.
Thank you. So, of course, with all the craziness of inflation, my one real concern this year, especially fiscally, will be the budget for our road machinery and our road maintenance. As we all know, oil, steel, and goods and services are going through the roof. We're seeing a huge spike in parts, anything that has to do with electronic and steel and engineering, which is 90% of the components that go on our large trucks and our bigger equipment. The prices are astronomically, and when I say astronomically, some of them are double and triple the price in recent years. So I just want to preference, I've been seeing a trend with parts. I had a copy of my budget. I think the road machinery budget's like, we're down to like 20% on that budget right now. So we're in the winter and snow mode right now, so we have that kind of buffer. But once we get out into spring, you know, it'll be challenging to get everything back up and running. You know, the mowers, the big roadside mowers and stuff like that. That's always a couple $1,000s right off the bat to get those heads replaced and get everything back operational. I think last year Billy put a new head on the roadside mower. It was about $5,000. That price was probably about $1,500 more than normal. So that's a significant increase on that particular item. Probably won't be as expensive this time around, but I can only imagine next time around that price will probably, you can add another couple $1,000s to that price. So just so we're on board. So I see that trending, as we all can see, the inflation of everything going.
Did you mean to not increase that?
So I know we talked about level funding because we have, we did pay off the loader. So the loader lease that we have in my budget will be kind of like a supplementary funding for that. So my only fear is that if we level fund those items and then that loader lease disappears, now I'm set back exponentially in that area. So just something keep in the back of our minds as we're moving forward. So same thing with the road maintenance budget, oil, asphalt, contractors, union contracts, wage analysis, all that stuff is hitting contractors as well. The salt price was up $18 a ton this year. Asphalt will be up because of the oil prices. So everything seems to be trending, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10%. And, our 2% or 2% plus in some areas will be significantly lower. I know that's always the issue, so I'm not telling you people anything you don't
Well, and you
already
know
know.
that issue is,
Right.
is
We don't have any revenue in
we
it.
have the 2.5% increase and
That's what we get.
on residential
Totally
taxes. And
get
so
it.
that's the struggle that we all live
Absolutely.
with.
Prop 2.5 is not realistic anymore.
Right.
Under
Never-
these
never
times,
been.
it's a
It was
joke.
tough even back in the 70s.
So I don't see how we're ever gonna follow that this year. So we gotta think really out of the box, because
Yeah, I agree.
his budget hits all aspects.
Yeah.
We have people and they produce paper. He actually has products in real maintenance to do,
Right.
like cutting grass, and it's,
Yeah,
so. it-
the maintenance in this town
Yeah, so,
is important. Obviously, we all take
Yeah.
care of the town, and we love to see it nice.
yeah.
So the loader lease ends in 23 or 24?
We paid it, we should be receiving a title. I sent you that email. I think we should be getting a title anytime.
This year, this
Yeah, it's-
fiscal year.
It's paid for.
So you have it budgeted for 24 as just sort of a placeholder?
So we had talked about it when we had our team meeting, when we were sitting with Rennie, myself, and the accountant to kind of go through, and we had talked about, like we had mentioned, like in the other meeting, priorities and goals of the department. And we thought it made sense to try and just keep it there since it's been there for so long. Given the financial circumstances that we find ourselves in, depending on how the finance board wants to move, some of the recommendations that I made in order to balance the budget included removing that. But understanding based upon that meeting that we had with Rennie about how that would caused some issues with his road machinery, we did increase the road machinery expense line item to about $10,000. We could probably go up a little bit more, but not too much, and that would give him some more flexibility with the road machinery, not level funding it, because obviously he needs that additional money, but then freeing up the larger chunk of change that technically was allocated for a purpose that no longer serves. If there's more money available, if there's, talks of doing anything on the operational override side, obviously, I think that it would make sound sense, like Rennie's discussing, to keep level funding that and using it for the machines that we have to keep them in good repair. But given the circumstance, just so the finance board is aware, that would be one of the recommendations in order to actually level fund the budget. To balance the budget.
Well, and like you said in here, to rename it from the front loader,
Rename the
leasing,
front
to
loader.
have it just be
Yeah.
equipment. So now it's just for some,
Yeah, recategorize the,
so that you can use it for anything.
I mean, other than that, we have a lot of contractual fluctuations with the union agreement that went on last year,
Why
so.
did the sick day buyback go down in
So
half?
we pushed it up the year before because we had an employee that was this close to taking advantage of it.
Oh,
Then that employee resigned, so now we only have one employee that actually pulls off of that account.
Qualifies.
Yeah, so we only
Okay.
have one. Now, we were getting ready to have two, so I said, let's have a little buffer in there. I think it was gonna be like $1,200 or $1,500.
yep.
So that's why we pushed it a little. Now we can actually pull a little off of that because we're back to the one person and we have, a lot, we've had a lot of turnaround in the highway department, so we have 3 basically brand-new employees and 1 very long-standing employee. So that's why that has changed.
I see. Makes sense?
Right. So the fuel budget, another thing
Yep.
Bill touched on last year and was wise. I should say I was wise to listen to him because he was pushing like, hey, your fuel budget seems a little light. And I was like, well, yeah, I know.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Boy, you got a compliment there.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
My
he
therapist
actually-
told me to take those, but
He actually pushed me to put a little, he would encourage me to see if we could put a little more money on it. And luckily we did. Because fuel, obviously, the past, it's getting better now, but, in the fall, before we got to the end of the fiscal, it was, going, to the $6-7 a gallon range. Diesel was right up there with it, so, or even higher.
Oh, diesel.
these are still $6 a
Yeah,
gallon.
right. So, and we get a little bit of a break, because we don't pay the road tax on it when we get large quantities that we have at the yard, so we get a little break there, but not much. I think we pay about $5.40 a gallon. So, but I think we're doing, we're trending in the same area, almost $1,000. I think it's
How's snow
9.
and ice this year?
Snow and ice is doing actually, obviously, very well. I mean, we had a couple of little storms in the beginning. We had a couple of, I don't want to call them catastrophic, but pretty big breakdowns with an aging fleet. So those numbers could actually be a lot lower, but I think we're trending to have a surplus this year. So, I mean, we've had a
No,
light.
I mean,
we've
I
had a
tell you,
light
I
winter.
worry, every time it snows, I say,
Yeah.
oh, it's warmer now.
But it's funny because when you
is how-
get storms that are 2-3 feet, you think, oh, that's an expensive storm. That actually isn't an expensive storm. It's those little
Ice.
snow and ice. That's when the guys are constantly putting material out, and that's,
There
that's
was
when they're super
one
expensive.
or 2 years
It's just
ago. I
bad.
was like, what do you mean? It hasn't snowed all, it was ice every night.
That's what it is. When
Or
you
early morning.
especially when they get the call, at 3-4 in the morning before the school buses to go out to go salt
Yep.
everything.
Yep,
Safety plays a factor, and
yep.
salt makes everything safer. So
People constantly say we have the nicest.
they
We
do.
do.
They do a great job.
We do. We live right on the line,
They
and
do.
you can see the difference.
I drive in Boxford when I
Yep.
come from Methuen, and I'm like sliding all over the road. Then I get onto Washington Street, and I see Bill flying by, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I can sip my coffee now.
Yeah.
So I mean, the guys do. Bill
deal.
is the leader, obviously, in that role, and he does a phenomenal job. He's on top of it, and he's working with a young crew that is catching on very quickly. We have an on-call system that has been very vibrant, and gives Bill a little break now, so he's not the only soul-searching guy in the middle of the night that doesn't get any sleep. So he's getting, you know, a little more freedom, which he is well-deserved.
Yep.
And the guys are picking up the slack.
Great.
There is any. They're picking up the other side of things. So, and it's working out pretty good.
That's good.
So hopefully, snow and ice, I mean, I know obviously we had a surplus last year, I think around about $30,000. So maybe we make that up this year somehow, if we're lucky. I mean, right now it looks pretty, I mean, even the future forecast is not, we're not gonna, although it's gonna be freezing cold, we're not looking at any big precipitation for the next couple of weeks.
What I see is rain.
Rain, right, it's gonna be 40s, and
Right.
so we'll take it.
Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Yeah.
Have questions? You do? Oh, yes.
I do. A few years back, not so many few, not more than a couple, but less than several, right?
Okay.
We tried to make a conscious effort to increase the snow and ice removal line.
Yep.
A little bit each year. Now,
Oh.
I know it's level funded this year. Here's my worry. The last 3 years, if you follow the news and the weather patterns, we've been in this La Nina
Yep.
pattern, which typically is precipitation on average, but warmer than usual,
Right.
which means more rain than snow.
Correct.
I read recently that it's moving now
We're gonna
into...
switch to El Nino back to.
Right,
El
La
Nino.
Nina, or El Nino, which typically provides this area with
Yep.
more precipitation and colder
Colder
than
weather.
normal. So we've been pretty lucky 3 years in a row with not a lot of snow and warmer than average temperature. But I
Yes.
think, based on what the experts are seeing and predicting, that could change next year.
Correct.
So would it be wise now to pad that number a little bit more, considering even if your fuel cost stayed exactly the same, your salt costs are probably gonna increase.
I always do.
Your chemical costs are probably gonna increase.
Always do.
And your contracted costs are probably gonna increase.
I've balanced those out, but yes. I mean, we have a little control over the contractors, but, I mean, when fuel goes up, we have to kind of match it or we'll lose them all.
I
So-
hate to spend money.
Right.
I'm the first one that,
I
always
know you,
demand the
Bill. I
value
know,
for a
yep.
dollar. But I think
Yes.
it's, this time it might be prudent to pad that, that you don't have it.
No, I would say that it is one of the only line items
That
that
you
we are
can
able to
overspend.
deficit spend.
Right.
And to add any additional money would shortcut any other operations that we have going on, where at the end of the year, we could transfer any remaining free cash or anything of that nature to account for how bad that particular fiscal year is. So while there was an effort, I believe, like you said, a while back, to bring it up a little bit because it was really low,
We made a
We've gotten.
substantial
Yeah, we've gotten a
change
lot
to
better
it.
at it.
It was
Probably
like
about-
$120,000 at one
Yeah.
time,
Yeah,
which was
the
so
year before I got here was
insanely
125, and then it went
Right.
to like 175, and now we're up to
Yeah.
2.25.
One
or
storm, you
3.
blow through that and then
you
you're
can,
done.
You'd be done,
you can
right.
see that definitely through the chain on the
Yes.
smaller sheet that you have. I'm just very hesitant, especially with
Yeah.
with the override, to add any monies of that where you can deficit spend on that account where you can't on all of the other line items.
So I know last year we didn't increase it, and we increased the road machinery
Yep.
line item, $11,000. So that was very helpful, because if you look at that road machinery line item, it's the most heavily used line item, especially after the winter and leading up to the winter. So that, I don't want to say that supplements the snow and ice budget, but it kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It helps it out. It cushions it a little bit.
Yep.
So that $11,000 that we added to that can be used kind of to get everything ready before the snow comes. And then on the backside, when everything gets, beat up, we can repair it then too.
Yeah.
So, but.
And I
like
get
said,
what you're saying, Rebecca, that's the only line item we can
surplus,
overspend.
right?
But if there was more, if the revenues were better, if they
we
allowed
had
us
the-
to, then I would agree with you. We should, raise it so that we don't have to necessarily go that road, especially biting into our free cash like that. But where the revenues are just the way that they are, I'm really, really nervous about doing that right now.
Right, so, okay,
At the cost
so
of,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
alrighty.
We overspend by $50,000 in this budget next year, right? You've gotta get a transfer, you overspend, what do you get it anyways?
Free cash.
Free cash, yeah.
So the goal is always to have a certain amount of
And-
free cash that you have left over, so that, whatever surprise or whatever you had that, and if it worst came to worse and we've depleted our free cash for some other unknown emergency or something, you have your stabilization. And then we have about $1.3 million in stabilization that we could tap into if we needed to. It's
As
not
an
ideal, but you would get the money from free cash anyway at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as long as we're keeping a good amount of reserve left over after the allocation for the former fiscal year, we should be in good shape in order to cover any additional snow and ice issues. It's not ideal, trust me, but it's definitely still safe.
So right now, we're trending, don't quote me, but we're trending to have roughly almost $40,000 left in the snow and ice at the end of this year. So if anyone remembers 2015, and what a nightmare year that is, that was the
back
But it
nor'easter.
didn't start until February.
And that, so that was the back end of that El Nino system
You had
that
to
we were
say it,
talking about.
didn't you? Now we're gonna.
I
have a
know,
big-
I
you
just
know?
saying
Knock on
that
the wood
was,
again.
You know?
Do it again.
I'm just saying that was the El Nino, the back end of the El Nino, frontage that we were
We
getting,
forget the
so.
drought this year too.
I mean,
It's 45 years next week for the blizzard of 78.
Right.
No.
No.
so.
But I,
I feel confident, and I actually like the challenge of having, because I overspent last year,
yeah.
and I tried very hard not to, but I actually like the challenge of matching what I overspent last year and having in surplus this year. So I don't want to promise you anything, but that's my goal.
Well, and I think that what you
great goal.
said,
Right.
Rebecca, is a very sound
Right.
policy. Policy might not be the right word, but plan.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we would have to we'd have to take funds away from something else, and our services are so, you hear every single person that comes in here is looking for
So that's the one
more
thing with snow and
funding.
ice. You can't take
And-
away money. You
Or
can,
we increase the deficit.
And we
Yeah,
would
but you can't
find,
take away.
we could cover it in an emergency.
Right.
But if it gets to next year, like you're saying, and the weather continues to trend in that direction, then 100%, like you said, we need to get ahead of it, and then we will need to start funding it more, so that we don't need to rely on that additional money. But hopefully then we're still doing well financially, and we continue to let more fall into free cash and people don't overspend, and then we'll be able to build up that reserve as well.
Yeah.
So, and either way, I think that we're safe.
And to touch back on it, now that I have my report in front of me, we've spent almost 81% of the road machinery budget to date,
Which we increased.
which we increased, $11,000, which was a significant increase last year, almost 22%. So that's how, we're not driving around new trucks. So there's no new, there's
Well.
one coming,
Because they're not coming in.
right? But, this is
And
just.
I should say also for the record that the new trucks came from the ARPA
Correct.
funding, not from
Not
our
from our
budget, which is
capital,
which is the struggle that we keep referring to.
Correct.
That was federal rescue funds
Yep.
that had to go to,
You can only use it in certain,
That was really free cash.
yeah. Free, for free.
so, can I go back to one question on the
Sure.
goals? Repaving of Union and Chestnut and King Street. I thought that we were piggybacking on a
National Grid?
National Grid project.
So National Grid is gonna, again, don't quote me, but I had a deal with them that typically what they do when they get done with a repiping job is they mill a foot beyond the margin. So whatever trenches they created, they do a foot on either side, they mill the road and they repave it, which is not bad. For that particular road is in such disrepair, when I talk to the engineers, it's a waste. So what they're gonna do is, they'll mill the whole road. We won't. They'll pay for that, and then we'll just pave it. So it's kind of like they're gonna wash. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're gonna help us out a little.
Distribute their resources.
Exactly.
to-
So instead of them having to hire two companies, they can come in, mill the whole road, and then we repave it. I mean, it needs to be. Union, not so much up until I think Summer Street wasn't too bad, but from there on is the roads beyond, I don't want to say beyond repair, but beyond any useful repair, like National Grid was going to do for us. So it's better to just have them pay to have the whole road milled, and then use our funding to repave it, because it does need to be repaved.
Okay.
And then I plan on also doing Chestnut all the way down to Maine, because that section's bad too, so. And they'll do that, so.
Okay. Just curious. I knew there'd be a good
Yeah.
reason.
It works out in our favor, I can guarantee you that.
So, all right, good. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
Yeah, quick one. The field use fees now, what's the charge on that? What do we,
So it depends. If it's just the Pentucket League, it's just the $200 flat fee for the entire season.
Yeah.
And then if you're a resident, I forget exactly.
50 per,
It's like 50 per game.
yeah, 50 per game, and then non-residents,
Resident is
50 per
100.
team.
Oh, no, it's 50 per person. No, I think it's
person.
100 per
Per team.
per
what is this,
team.
a
Yeah.
Taylor Swift concert?
No,
Yes.
no, I
I'll
forget
take it.
specifically, because I know we went back and forth between per team, per game,
Yeah.
and per player. But I know that like for the Pentucket Leagues, it's just a 200 flat fee for the entire season, and the other ones is based upon, resident versus non-resident, and per team or per player.
Like an AAU team wants to play down at the Pines, it's $100 a team.
I believe so. I'll pull it up right now.
No, good. It was 50 when I was there, so,
Yeah, 100.
and you know what, they got deep pockets.
Yeah.
They
They
don't
want to
blink-
use
they
our
don't
nice
blink an eye.
fields, they gotta pay.
Yeah, the goal, like we had mentioned, it was never to overtask some of the local leagues that play. It just helps with the relationship that we're building with those teams in order to do more. Like over at Washington Field, we were talking about doing the mowing a little bit more because the outfield was growing a little faster, so they were asking Highway to come twice. $200 is not enough for their fuel to do that, but it's a midway point where we're like acknowledging that we need to do more. They recognize that we need to do more, so like they called us and they want us to fix the gate, and they called us and they want us to do it. It's just it's the beginning of just trying to
Help us
come
with
to a
repairs and upgrading areas too that need to be upgraded.
just a
Gain
collaborative
of the
effort
water, you know, at
without
the
breaking their bank
program.
and making it so that they pass it on to their players and their players can't play, because that, what we discussed on the recreation, that was never the intention. It was just to kind of formalize that agreement and let everybody know that we're trying to help accommodate as much as we can.
Yeah, I agree, and
Try and get it so it pays
Pines
for
is
itself.
really your, you know, the place to exploit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. People love it, so they want to use it. They should pay. I mean, obviously.
Absolutely.
Residents, they already pay, so.
There's no doubt about it. We have the greatest facilities in Cape Ann. We've got the parking, we've got the school board, we've got the bathrooms.
Yeah. It's a nice facility.
It's the best. It's not just nice.
The best. I digress.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Good luck with the rest of the budget season.
Thank you. So at 6:30, we have the Board of Health.
What the hell, that's so one.
Tab 23, if
so
anyone's,
one member already
yeah.
go.
I will note on the Board of Health budget, one of the things that you will see that's larger is something that both Ellen and I were discussing and we thought was a good move, and the Board of Health agreed, is that instead of having two salary line items to fund Lori's position, both the rubbish contractor and then as well as her position as the assistant within the department, is to combine them together so that it's one line item. And that is just a task within their department and what, one of the duties that needs to be done.
And then the hire that they're requesting is separate from that.
I'm sorry?
The hire that they're requesting is separate from that.
They're not requesting a hire, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Their budget doesn't reflect that.
Part-time employee to handle trash, recycle, complaints, apply for the grants, attend DEP trash and recycle seminars and workshops, and participate in webinars.
Their budget doesn't reflect that, though. Their budget only reflects the nurse, the agent, the part-time clerk, and their expense line item. So I don't know why they would unless, again, it's more in their
Well,
supporting
the
material.
part-time clerk
And they'll speak more to it, but
increased by 63%, so is it cooked into that?
we just included what they had for the rubbish contractor and added it to the part-time clerk wages.
So it's one line item now.
So it's one line item, so it's not just increase for their, another position. It was just the one position with the additional duties that were already separated out. But I'll have to review the letter more closely, but their budget doesn't reflect that request.
Yeah, and can we include the line item in the 2023 budget that was combined? Like, you're combining two for 2024.
Yes, so we're
So as an
combining,
equal comparison, can we combine the same two line items in 2023? So it, right now, it looks like it's 63% increase, but it's really not.
yes. So we wanted to move those monies into the part-time wages, so that's why we didn't do, oh, but, I'm sorry, I guess, I don't understand what you're asking.
It just says
So you had two line items
Yes.
in 2023,
Mm-hmm,
and they added up to X.
yep,
And now we have two line items in 2024 that add up to Y.
yep.
But it looks like in 2023, we're only showing one of the two line items, right? Or,
We have, in 2023, we adopted $12,273 for the contract administrator for the rubbish collection. And then also adopted in FY '23 under the Board of Health, we allowed for $32,667. So we were going to increase the part-time clerk wages with the $12,000 and then add the 2% off of that
How are
entire.
you? You guys can come on in, if you want to sit up at this table with us, if
if I can
that's
make one suggestion
easier.
for next year. Not that between now and then I won't say the word sugar plum iced tea again. If we could add one more column, right, that showed
But you guys don't go for the
numerical
cozy
difference
chairs.
year over year.
You don't go for the
plus
cozy
percentage.
chairs.
That would be really cool.
Okay. I can do that.
Oh, that's why.
I might need to, ask you for your Excel expertise to create that new column without offsetting any of the other ones, but,
That's fine.
Heck, yeah.
okay.
It's because you have to go to the other tab.
What other tab?
There's another tab, this tab 21.
This from our
Yeah,
meeting.
so if you take
Because
that,
What did
it
I do?
shows
that
that
amount
here,
was-
that's why.
What did I do?
They're two separate tabs.
This amount was wrong.
It's a little
Ah,
confusing.
there you go. Yes. Now,
Oh, rubbish.
So that
a
shows
better
0,
comparison
and
would
then
have been adding the
Yeah.
12 to the
I know.
20.
619 should have
You know
been
what I mean?
2%.
Yeah.
But now you have this, so
Yeah.
you see that that's going to 0, that's all.
Okay.
I said, there's gonna be another tab, I'm missing something here.
Yep. Good spot.
Somebody else coming in here? Just the two of you? Okay, so it's 6:30, so we're on schedule to meet with the Board of Health. Welcome. I know you're new this year to the board, so thank you. If maybe we should all introduce ourselves then, and then we'll invite you to do the same, so. Jim?
Bill O'Neill, and I'm responsible for his misery right now because I talked him into running, so I'm very sorry, but very thankful that you stepped
Oh,
up.
he doesn't look miserable. He's happy to be here. I'm Ruth Rivard,
Sarah McGrath.
Alex Woods.
and you
I'm
all
Rebecca
know
Goldman, town
Rebecca.
administrator.
Hi, how are you?
And
In Greenball.
And Deb Cater Hall.
so, nice to meet you, and thank you both for coming. So, just to give a very brief introduction, that this is the time that we sit down and we meet with all of the departments just to hear about what's been going on in your department or your board, in this case, and review goals, review the budget, and then we don't make any decisions at this point. It's just an information gathering session, which we do with everybody, and then at the end of it, we'll sit with Rebecca and have some reviews and conversations to make some recommendations on where we can squeeze our 2.5% tax increase. So if you want to just start and talk a little bit about what's been going on and what was presented to the town.
I'm going to defer to Deb.
Oh, great,
since
thanks a lot.
This is my first go-around.
This is my last go-round, by the way.
Don't say that.
Oh,
Is your-
yeah, I'm not running again. No, I'm done. This is my,
When does your term expire?
when's the election?
May,
This year,
Yeah.
so this is
Oh, yeah,
it?
this is it.
Oh.
How come?
First Monday
Uh-huh.
in May.
Yeah.
How come? I've had enough of it. Come on, Bill, you were on the other end of it when all the COVID stuff. No.
We had a full
I've done my
appreciation.
time.
Oh, that's, I'm
You've been
sorry
battle
to hear
scarred.
that.
It's been 5 long years.
5 years. We appreciate it, so.
No.
And we understand, everybody has a time that they can serve, and
Yep.
you do what you
I
can
mean,
do, and,
There was a time
And-
when it was just me in there, when there wasn't even an extra
Yeah.
person and stuff, and it was just, yeah, it was not fun.
well,
So,
we thank you.
I'm done. My husband will kill me if I said I'm not. So, all right, so what did you want, I don't even, usually the ladies talk, and they didn't, I said, oh, you guys don't need to come, so I don't know even what to tell
It's
you.
fine, just talk a little
Um,
bit maybe about what's been going on in the department and what sort of priorities you've had, and, or just review the budget numbers and what you're looking
Well,
to
there is an
to
error, and I
do.
should tell you, there is an error in the budget numbers here.
Okay. So that's a good place to start.
All right, so under the health sanitation agent wages, it has like only a percentage of 1.619.
Yeah.
Well,
it should be the full 2%.
It should be at least 2%.
Yeah, okay.
So we came up that it should be 37,688.60 versus the 37,
Okay.
I can't see it on my reading glasses, 528.
Okay.
It's not a whole lot more, but it's, you
Yeah.
know.
what was it, the 37,528?
It was,
688.
it went
Yeah, the
from,
528 is wrong.
it went from 36,930, then it was 37,528, but that only comes up to a 1.619% instead of 2. So it should be 37,668.60.
We'll double check, because she's hourly. I just want to double check that that's accurate.
We did figure it out at our meeting.
Right.
Per the hour, and per
Yeah.
the amount of hours she
Yes.
works in the 52
I just
point.
did it.
Okay.
And that's what it is, right?
37,668.60.
Yeah,
668 or
668.
668.
I got
So is it
688.
round, what's the roundup? 69?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
And I know this year they combined Lori's wages, her help, the trash and the, her administrative assistant. And then I saw the Collins Center report, just saw that today. And she, I think, makes 23.52 or something really low. And the lowest amount that, on that wages is like 23.8 cents, 23.08. Lori's been here for 22, 23 years. So basically, she's making like $1 an hour for every year she's been here, if you think about it that way. She doesn't,
Yeah.
and then the highest is 30, so I really feel she should at least, I know we're not supposed to be making any more adjustments, but as far as I'm concerned, she should at least be making a minimum of $25 an hour
Yeah.
for all the years she's been here and everything she's done. I mean, she's the wealth of information. If you ask her, she knows everything from, everybody else here is fairly new.
Well, that's one thing that we talked about last year, and the year before, actually, is that a 2% increase, it depends on the range of compensation.
And she's at the very low end of her.
So 2% doesn't really keep you up. So every once in a while, you have to make an adjustment where you can on the lower ranges to get it back up. And so that's really one of the reasons that we also contracted the Collins Center to really do this comprehensive study so that we could really make some informed, educated decisions about priorities. And
But we did go up last year on Lori's more than the 2%,
we did.
because we felt like that there was the need there. So we did.
So she was one of
But
the
she-
ones that.
Right, but she's still, if
No,
you
no.
look at it, she's still
Yeah,
at the
Agreed.
low.
But I just want to
low.
clarify that we did
Yeah.
make an effort, and we do see that, and we do agree with that.
Yeah.
But that did happen.
But-
I'm not saying it doesn't happen again,
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
But, and then on the nurse ones,
Yeah.
she's fine, but she makes like over $35, 36 or whatever it is at this point. But in the Collins Center one, it had an amount of 3162. There's never been,
So that was the issue. If you look at the report itself with the Collins Center, they have like an explanation section that shows you how the data can be skewed in certain circumstances. It points to appointed versus elected. It points to discrepancies between longevity, incentive bonuses, other things that other communities offer. And it also can be skewed by the amount of data points. And for that specific point, you are required to have at least 3 data points in order to be considered to be comparable. And most positions have more than 3, because we were compared to more than 3 comparable communities. But that specific position just had 3 total, with herself included, to be compared
right, but
to.
it was like but the way I looked at it was supposed to be a wage that we were paying. And it had like $31.62 as a payment, and we've never paid that low in that position. So I don't know where that amount came from.
Right, so when she compared, how many times did we compare?
I could get them.
Say we compared 10, I'm just gonna use 10 as a number because I don't have it in front of me. Only 3 out of the 10 had them. If we're talking about the highway superintendent, there was 10 out of 10 that we could compare to. So that's what she's stating, is that when there's only 3 data points of that specific job role, that's why it's so all over the place.
It skews the
It
numbers.
skews the numbers.
Because the sample
if
size
we
is so
had-
small.
Correct. If we had 10
Stats.
positions in that one role,
I sucked at that.
that we could have better points with that. That's the hard part, is when they're so specific. You know, not every town has one, so, or they loop it in with something else, so that's what she's saying.
That makes sense. Because she's paid $35 an hour.
Right, well, it's more than that, because she's been here, now this is the second round, so it was 35.60, I think, last year, so then it goes a little up from that. 2% up from the 35.60, or something, I think it is. Isn't it?
No, well,
Because she started a year
position
ago in
classification
November.
questionnaire that she filled out said that she works 12 hours and her position was at $35 an hour.
When she first started, in November of 2022, but then that would have been the first go-round, she would have gotten 2% last January, right? January of.
No, not
it's
January.
June. It's June.
That's
It's
what
She just got, what happened is that the position
right,
was
but-
underfunded, so the Board of Selectmen allowed for American Rescue Funds to go and support her salary because it wasn't budgeted appropriately as of January 1. So it
Right, I remember
wasn't
that, okay.
necessarily an increased rate, it was that the line item didn't have sufficient funds, and the American Rescue Funds were granted by the Board of Selectmen to go into that line item, I think about $2,900, to make it so that she could get to the end of the fiscal year. So
Right,
it
so
wasn't
that
an
would-
increased rate, it
Okay,
was
so
just,
last July, though, she would have been 35.60.
she has it as 35.
That's not what we're paying her. We're paying her 35.60. Because she would have increased in July of last year, the 2%.
So I have that actual for, well, I have to pull up her hourly wage.
We can,
Yeah.
we can follow up on that. We can, Rebecca can work with the town
Yeah,
accountant.
because then if you take
circle
that
back
2%
with it.
from that,
Yeah,
then she's got to be, it'll be like 36 something. I forgot what the new rate is, but
yeah,
just have to make sure that we have it right in here this year.
yeah.
Because it was wrong last year.
I know, by a lot.
The rate or the hours?
The rate.
Well, actually,
It was just the total, I mean, I don't know the hourly rate.
I think it was
but the total amount was off.
no, what
2,000.
happened was the hours got increased, because it was only 6 hours. Then it got increased to 12 hours, and those 6 additional hours per week never got included in
So
everything.
they did that at special town meeting back in 2021 in
Right.
December. They added additional funds for the
Right.
hours.
Because it was at the height of everything, and it was just, and even now, Anita's like really good at what she does, because she follows all the trends as far as what's going on in communicable diseases and everything. So, you know, she researches, she has her little graphs. You can see everything is, how COVID's going up and down and what's happened in our town. You've been at the meetings with her. She's,
So she tracks that, and then
Mm-hmm.
how does that impact the residents? Is there communication? Is there, like, what do we do with that information that she then
Well, I think
has?
part of
I'm
the
just
problem-
curious.
I think she tries to put out as much information as she can. I drive by this town hall to and from the school every morning, drop my daughter off, and I see the communications out about increase in COVID numbers, RSV and flu, and what precautions to take.
That's on the board?
Yeah.
I don't drive by.
Free COVID test kits are available, is out there on the board. I mean, listen, I work in a public health department, and I feel in general, public health is generally underfunded all the
For
time.
the city of Salem, he is the
Yeah.
health agent down
Yeah.
there in Salem.
So, I mean, I'm gonna be doing this myself in my department in a few weeks with my finance director,
Yeah.
fighting for these same dollars,
Yeah.
you know? This is a much smaller scale than what I'll be dealing with,
Yeah.
but, you know, if I had my way, I would say that these positions should be full-time positions and paid you know, a living wage for those particular positions.
Yeah.
So, I know it's not realistic in some instances, but.
I know, it's not,
But your employees wouldn't be able to work them full-time anyway, due to other restraints that both of them have. So you wouldn't be able to make them full-time.
Well, I don't know what their restraints are. I mean, they haven't said anything to me that they have restraints, so.
I just meant in terms of retirement, and I know that Rosemary also does other communities and has
I
contracts
think
with other communities
she actually
to do
only
that.
does this one now, and she has her own business. She doesn't do the other ones anymore.
Okay.
I found that out, that she gave those other two up, because she was doing, I think, Methuen and Haverhill.
Exactly. So that's what I meant in terms of other
Mhm.
contractual obligations.
Yeah, she's not. She's only here, and she's 17 hours a week, and that's it.
But I
So-
think those are good things for us to know that, right? I mean, and to Rebecca's point, if they do have other obligations, Sam Joslin, who's the building inspector, works part-time here and part-time in West Newbury.
Right.
We can't make Sam Joslin a full-time building inspector here because he's not contractually. Could we say, okay, Sam, we're gonna go find someone full-time? Sure, we could do that. We're not gonna do that. Same thing. If she does not have those anymore and that's what she's looking for, something for us to know that, right? We don't know that.
And I know when we had this issue with Lori too, and with Rosemary, they don't like to put the extra hours in. Like, she works 14, 15 hours, sometimes it's 17, sometimes it's probably more, but she doesn't always nickel and dime and write things down like she should. Rosemary
Absolutely.
doesn't write things down, because she's worried that there's not gonna be enough money to pay for things, so she doesn't put it in, you know?
The other thing in your goals, it says that you wanted to hire a part-time employee, but it's not reflected in the budget.
No, because that got added in after the fact, and because with Lori's position, we were thinking that that's a goal, that whether it's this year or next year, but sometime within the next few years, there should be somebody who does the trash, a part-time person, whatever, or if they're working with in another position, so it makes it a 20-hour or whatever, 25 hours, but that needs to be taken away from the Board of Health, because it's just such an issue. Even with everything else, the reportable, she still gets phone calls on trash all the time.
I welcome take on additional duties for her if she needs the additional support in the
Oh.
interim, for sure.
And then she'd have more time to do the other things in the department that need to be done.
Are there still a lot of calls about trash and
Yeah,
recycling?
she gets them.
I mean, a lot?
I don't know how many anymore, because I don't,
Yeah, and she didn't specify an
yeah,
amount,
she
but
didn't
she
specify.
indicated.
I
that
kind of
there's-
laughed when I got the report from trash saying, for the year, like, they had like 13 calls on their list. That's not true. They can't get through to Waste Management, so they call Lori, but it's well over 13 calls per year on trash.
I'd have thought that would have been solved by now. I know when I was on
Not really.
the Board of Selectmen, I specifically addressed it in a conference call with these folks.
Oh, yeah.
And told them in no uncertain terms that their customer service, I can't use the word because they'll throw me off.
They stink. They're awful.
She said it, I didn't.
So I know that,
And
so
well-
after we had that initial problem, I started taking a trash log so that every single time that Lori needs to contact Waste Management and does so by email, I track it. So.
We had 2 or 3 in this past week.
So and that was all about Murray Ave, which was due to construction and was picked up and collected this morning. So not counting today and this week, the last pickup date I have, or the last report I have is 1/25/2023. And so what I do is I have a column and I put down who's telling me that there's a trash pickup. So when Lori emails Waste Management. I'm copied on the email, so I write it down. If it comes in through the website, I write it down. If somebody, like on a board, like Selectwoman Castronellis will give me a call, I'll write Kathy K or something like that. So as of that, I only have about 77 calls that have come
77?
through. And
Over
that's
what time
starting
frame?
Over-
from, about, I want to say, the spreadsheet, about December.
Like
That's
December
still a lot of calls.
2022?
That's still a lot of calls.
December 2022?
Should have
So
77 like in a
that's a lot of
month?
calls.
That's 70 more than should be expected in a little over 6 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's a lot.
I guess, I guess somebody on the
Well,
board ought to be addressing this.
It's not all just for the calls too, you know, the website takes in a couple of them too, but from a customer service perspective, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
a trash issue.
A
in
trash
general,
issue.
Right, a trash issue, I would say,
Yeah.
77
So
in
When is
general.
the contract up for this?
it's
vendor?
4 more years.
Next time, let's pick a local contractor so
No,
we can
let's pick,
drive
let's
down.
pick someone
We
that
think we're
is
saving
cheaper
money
and
and
will
we
do it. I
don't.
don't wanna just pick someone just
It's-
based on their location.
Yeah, but you
You're
know
right,
what?
but you know what? I was involved in those
Also,
negotiations,
sometimes
and
you
it's
also get what you
very,
pay for, throw it out there.
but it's very difficult. You know, Waste Management is one of the only outfits that actually have their own transfer station. All these other ones have, there's an extra charge. So when you
I
look at the
misspoke,
contracts,
it's 1/23, 2022,
That sounds,
last year.
123,
So-
2022.
So a full year of
Of-
77.
So you're talking
Oh, I feel
13
much
months.
better
When
now.
you said that, I was like, wait, I'm going back up the list and and like, you'll see, it's like a
Okay.
divided list, so I
Okay,
wasn't
so
looking at
77
the
calls
top.
in a year.
That's
not ideal, but it's not
not
6
ideal.
weeks.
But
But it's not 6
yeah,
weeks, so I
that's-
feel better.
I
That's
mean,
more reasonable.
Well,
over 13 months, it's not bad. I
you doing
mean,
that, Matt?
of course.
Well, the guy that actually does the work is, he's a one-man band, and
He
he's
is,
really.
that's what I've heard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like
one
6
guy
calls a month.
does all the trash, Mr. Salem. One guy, 5 days a week,
That was faster than you.
one guy.
We should just
For
make
the
sure
whole
that
town?
that
The
Lori's
whole
checking
town.
that, 'cause she,
Yeah.
He's really he's really positive.
And he smiles and he waves
So
and he
nice.
talks to us.
I went on
and-
vacation, you said you didn't put your trash out last week? I was like, I was on vacation. He goes, okay, I was worried.
Yeah.
So nice.
So realistically, we're averaging 5.9 a month.
Right.
And if you break that down on a weekly basis, I mean, it's a
Some
call
weeks
and
it's
a half a
probably
week.
overwhelming, and some
Yeah.
weeks it's probably not. And when it
I'm
hits,
sure
it probably
snow,
hits.
Whether that
right,
doesn't
depends
know.
on when,
If there's an issue, probably it's the whole street calling, or maybe calling more than once, kind of thing.
right.
And
Yeah.
then the calls come in when the trash, I mean, of all the calls that we get some angry calls from angry residents, but I will tell you, whenever you get a call in terms of trash, that is an angry individual.
Well, they
and they are
panic because they
not-
think they're gonna have to wait a whole week,
Yes.
perhaps, if they got missed.
Then we gotta go out and buy bags because we're over the
That's the
2 barrel
thing, no
limit.
one's, this is the other thing,
I
no
haven't
one's
seen
buying the
any
bags.
No one's
and-
doing bags.
No, I know, but they really should be, because I'm out going to work early in the morning, and I go different routes, and sometimes that trash is piled high, and it should not be. And the Waste Management is picking it up,
Yeah.
Right.
and they shouldn't be picking it up either when
I
it's.
agree,
when it's
because
over.
that's adding to our expense.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
We're not getting any reimbursement
It
for
is.
the over.
And
And this is
Kathy-
the problem we started with the 2 barrel limit, because people could bring trash from Timbuktu, pile it on the doorstep and say, hey, there's suckers in Groveland, they'll take everything.
Right.
And our trash costs would just, escalating exponentially.
And it still is.
Well,
It's
then,
not.
somebody ought to bring that to their attention and say,
But I was thinking
That's
somehow
gotta
or
be
other that
enforced.
needs to be brought up again, because it's not only me, Kathy drives a different way too, and she sees in different days. No matter what day, the trash is over
We have trash
in a lot of
costs.
areas, it's over, way over the limits.
The tonnage
They-
is not
they-
down
they-
like we
They
expected.
pick up everything.
but they
They
shouldn't.
never used to when they had 2 guys.
Is it the same or is it up?
They had
Um,
2
it-
guys on a truck.
Kathy's doing a
They
more
would put
thorough
a sign
review,
why they
but it's-
rejected it.
it's
That
not
sign does not exist
decreasing.
anymore.
Yeah. Well, and that's the
So our tonnage is gonna be going through this roof.
It's
All
not-
right.
It's not increasing, it's just not decreasing.
And the
And
contract
Kathy's
went
doing a
up
full
by
But
analysis
that
to
was the
present,
whole
but.
idea
11.25%
behind.
this year.
And that's what she
from
said, she was disappointed to see
660,000
that it wasn't
730.
decreasing
I
like she
know.
thought it would.
And then by next year, it's gonna be 1 million.
But we ought to push it back on Waste Management, say, it hasn't decreased because you're not enforcing the rules we put into
Well,
place.
that doesn't help us, yeah.
Well, then the calls,
I can
Okay.
make a call.
All right.
You do all this work and
I was gonna say, this one thing about waste management, it's funny, because we have them in our place in Florida, there's never an issue. They pick up twice a week, and they pick up anything you put out. They'll see it and drive by, and they see the stuff there, they'll come back the next day or whatever, and get whether it's whatever kind of garbage you put out there, you know, your stuff from the garage, they will come back and pick it up, there's no extra, it's, our tax bills, can they be like set out as to what we have, like where each thing goes individually? That's what my Florida tax bill is.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
go
on the
online.
tax bill,
Go right
but
online.
but we
But
have like
it's-
a
but it's
calculator.
But each thing that it goes to is set up on there.
But if you go onto our website, is it up there?
I think so.
You can go in and put your tax bill and it breaks it out for you on the website.
Itemizes it.
It does.
Technology isn't
I will
great.
tell you, in Salem, we have waste management as well.
Yeah.
And when they came into town 10-ish years ago, part of the contract was for them to provide the giant toters, trash and recycling toters.
Yeah.
And anything outside of that barrel,
Didn't get picked up.
if the lid is up even a couple of inches, they don't pick it up. They reject it.
See, and that's what they're not doing here.
Right,
Well, it's not being enforced here.
right.
Right.
But it's not us to, it's,
No, no,
they
no.
have to,
Right.
right, they have to enforce it.
What's their incentive to enforce a policy that puts more money into their pocket?
Well, and not for nothing, we have the one gentleman who's very nice,
He's great.
and he probably just wants to be nice to us and pick up our
I
trash.
think it's what it is, he just wants
I
to.
mean, it's the same guy every day, right? I mean, he's, you know,
Yeah.
that's gonna be an
He-
uncomfortable position to be in,
I
right?
used to know
mean,
the
I'm
old
sorry.
guy by his first name. I mean,
know.
He doesn't wanna get, he just wants to do it and be
Yeah.
nice and not get,
Yeah,
It's harder to leave it
And he doesn't
behind.
want to have to go back.
Yeah.
If somebody calls to
and
complain, he
he's the
doesn't
only
want to
guy,
have to go back.
right? He's the only guy.
Enough
That's a
on
lot.
trash.
and that, are we
If
going
we
to be
didn't
able to get
spend so much
toters?
money, I'd agree with you.
We're looking into what we can do in
Oh.
order to accommodate.
Should have gone local.
Because Lori's low on recycling bins, I told her to go and purchase them.
I was part of the
but
negotiation.
I
There wasn't
prefer if we
anybody
could put that
local
money
that was gonna be
towards the
cheaper.
toters.
It
So
really
we were
wasn't.
successful in getting an RDP grant through the Mass DEP,
Sometimes
so I only
cheaper
got a
isn't the
couple of
best
points
way
for
to
that,
go.
so we're
Rebecca,
taking
you
it.
wanna wait, Jim?
Beg your pardon?
Yeah, no, Rebecca was just telling us something.
So we're gonna take the monies that we got for the grant and we're gonna put it into, home composting bins so that we can get additional points as well as further education, as well as holding our hazardous waste day with 2 of our neighboring communities, and then also doing a library of little things, and then we'll get additional points, so then we're gonna apply for the following fiscal year, and hopefully we'll get more money as part of the RDP grant, and then we would start investing and allowing to purchase those so that residents can have them. But it's just, I mean, as I'm sure you know, it's very difficult to get the points and make sure that you're adding up. We only got $1,200, so not a lot of money.
You're talking about with the goal of getting the big recycle?
We're trying
Mm-hmm.
to get ourselves up so that we can get more money, and then we can also qualify for technical assistance to then help us with putting together a proposal and/or seeking additional grant monies to provide for totes and other types of things to help with our trash and recycling.
The other thing they can do is they can put serial numbers on them. So every resident gets assigned a trash container with a serial
West
number on it.
Newbury has that.
Yeah.
You buy the barrel, you get one trash barrel, one.
Recycle barrel.
And it's got
And
a
the
serial
recycle
number.
barrel should be bigger
If you
than the
want a
trash
second
barrel.
one, you have to pay, I don't know, a couple of
Right.
$100.
Yeah.
But they have a structure there. Ours is a free form, put it in a barrel,
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
So, anyway, enough.
But they,
Do the residents buy those barrels?
They were provided initially. I don't know if
Provided.
they buy them, I don't handle the trash contract, so I don't know
By
that much
the-
about it. But they were provided as part of the contract to the residents, each residence. So if it's a multifamily, each apartment got one of each.
Haverhill has
Each
the
single
same
family
thing.
got one of each.
Yeah, I see them everywhere, but, you know, I just was curious how that works. I mean,
It
we
actually
have
makes
that.
it a little bit more,
Well, yeah, we bought ours.
Yeah.
Every-
No, I have
Yeah.
waste management ones.
Makes everything cleaner, neater.
I do.
and it's less, it's more efficient because they can use the arm to go out. They don't have to get out. They don't have to pick up the
Yeah.
trash. They
Their
just
labor
take the arm.
cost a cut.
He does, pretty much everyone on our street, he just parks and.
Yeah,
has the
it
arm. We
depends.
just
I
line
see
them
him
up.
on my street and sometimes
yeah, there are some-
sometimes he's gotta get out and move the
Yeah.
barrel in and
Right.
put it up in a certain way or pick it up himself because it's not
Yeah.
easy. It's a round barrel, it's not a square barrel, so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I've seen them out with the toter ones
Yeah.
now, picking things up whether they're supposed to or not yet, but they
Right.
have them.
That's what we, yeah.
Yeah.
so, Okay.
What was the other thing I was gonna say about?
I would just add, in regards to enforcement, if the board is looking for a part-time position, that's a perfect job for a part-time job position out of the health department.
Like a Truman
Is to go
office.
around and just do trash and recycling enforcement.
How much does it pay?
I could find out for you what our trash and recycling person makes in Salem. It's probably gonna be more than, you know,
More
The
than here.
union
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what, just to circle back, when you talked about the other positions being full-time, I hear you, and I know that would absolutely be ideal.
listen, I know, I understand
We-
municipal budgets, but the one thing I will add is that if the last 2 years, 3 years haven't taught us anything about public health, it's that a well-trained, well-staffed public health department can go a long way into making sure that the health of the community is better off than worse off.
Yep,
So,
yep.
And, you know, I get it, the pandemic is coming to an end, and it's not what it was 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But to think that it's not gonna happen again
Oh, no.
is,
Foolish.
Yeah.
I didn't wanna say it, but yeah.
Well, you know, that's part of the reason we, like I said, took on the wage classification study, and then we're gonna put some really long, short, mid, and longer term plans and goals into place, so that we can put, hopefully, some of these plans into place over time when there's funds. We do what we can do with the limited resources that we have, and, you know, with our tax base going up by 2.5%, you see the trash contract going up by $120,000.
Right.
It's, you know, everything just becomes
More and more expensive, it's harder to spread
expensive
those.
and harder.
That's why Prop 2.5 doesn't work. It's
Prop
over.
2.5 doesn't work. I really
Doesn't
think
work.
the intention of, well, I can't say, it wasn't but it seems to me like Prop 2.5 was the baseline put in place so that taxes couldn't go crazy, but I don't know that there was really an expectation that communities such as ours could get by in the long term at a 2.5%. I think that there's an expectation that we have to ask to augment that from time to time, and I kind of feel like we are right about there, so.
Well intended, but not very well thought out.
Yeah, well, I knew the person that actually wrote the bill, quite frankly.
Really?
You're not on speaking terms anymore.
I haven't seen her in a long time, and I think
She's in hiding.
She's passed away, I think, so.
Do you think as a transition method that it would make sense to have or try and increase the hours of the part-time clerk part-time clerk and make them full-time so that their office is staffed full-time? And then to see what happens with both the nurse and the health agent as their work depends on projects and depends on site visits and is a little bit more flexible. But like I know here in town hall, one of the things that we notice is that the staffing, like if people are coming in or dropping off and whatnot, you don't have that like all the time, representation of the department. So maybe if we are looking to expand at all, it would be on that level so that you have a face that people can, and a person that somebody can go to and, at least get their name, number taken down, and somebody will get back to them and whatnot. And then it allows that position to have more hours to adhere to doing more for the office, whether it be trash, whether it be other COVID-related things, research, or just, getting the office in order. Is that something that operationally makes sense, or is that something that's just not what you would imagine?
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
I think anything that can be done to assist the department is a good step. So if it means starting with the clerk to make that a full-time position, because at some point, they're gonna retire, and somebody's gonna wanna come in here, and a part-time position may not be what they're looking for. And it may be a position that sits vacant for many, many years, because it's part-time, the pay isn't enough, and, you might get lucky to get somebody in here, but, I think if that's a compromise that could be made to benefit the department, then I would say let's start there.
I was just gonna say Rosemary's been really busy with septics too. Because it seems like those just don't stop. Plus the weather hasn't even been that cold.
Right.
So, because normally it stops from November or December up till February.
Yeah, usually I would say the winter months.
Yeah, but
You
it's, she's been going this whole time, so.
Is she able to cover all the food establishments on a regular schedule?
Yeah, she does it.
Yeah.
She does
Wow.
it. Yep.
We have a lot of places that have food.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she's actually been out doing those inspections. They should be done, because it's
Yeah.
the month of January. In addition to working on everything with the camp too, the summer camp. That's pretty much, they've got the nurse practitioner, I think you know. So, that'll be good.
How about camps, as in plural? Because things are going on in,
Cedardale.
yeah, that are very disturbing, right? I mean,
Yeah, there's things that it's DPH, right, that
Yeah,
are,
it sounds like DPH is involved in it, and
Yeah.
they've kind of taken the lead, but Rosemary is on top of them as well, and they are working to address some of the
Yeah, they're
issues
really-
that DPH found,
right, but DPH is really,
pushing.
yeah.
They're actually asking to do some things that I don't know they can do.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
think-
but
Right, I
that's
think,
DPH's choice. If they're gonna tell them that something doesn't meet the regulation, then they may have to cut out that program of whatever it is,
like
you know?
the pool
like the
is too
pool.
old or something, and they just don't have the money to redo it right now. And there's other things.
Right. The pool was the big one. I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be cost prohibitive. but-
yeah, I've heard reports of the pool filtration system doesn't allow for the clearing of the water, so you can't see to the bottom.
Well,
So when
I
you
do
can't see
think
the
that
bottom and
happened
the kid
last
ends up
year,
at
but I think that was addressed.
Yeah.
I think it had something to do with the slope of the
Slope.
pool. It's,
I don't know,
the
I don't know
slope
that
is
it has to
actually-
do with the
yeah, the budget.
budget of, and we're sort of past the time and we have, sorry, I
that-
don't mean to interrupt, I'm just trying to sort
It
of
does,
keep us
because
on
that would be
point.
under your, I thought it would be under your purview as well, but it's not.
Well, it is, but DPH has
They
kind
said
of come
that
in and
it's
taken the lead on it.
addressed.
Rosemary would be able to explain it better than I can.
That's it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It would be
And
on
then
her
the
time.
only
It's
other
next
question
week.
was so that you're looking to increase your expense line item to include the $400 for additional training and
Oh,
continuing
yes, for the,
education
yeah,
for
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Yeah.
Now, if Rosemary is no longer with the other communities, I thought the idea was that the conference, which is great, and I hope she's able to go, because all the continuing education units and everything, is about $800, and the proposal was that Groveland would put in 400, and then the other community would put in another 400, so is that
oh, I
not-
didn't know about that, no, it was just that, 'cause she has her own consulting business too, so between the consulting business and her, we based it, worked on the hours that she works here, that it came to like 400, because she works 17 hours here, so we really couldn't give her the full amount, because she's not fully employed here. If she was,
Okay,
then we would pay for the full amount,
okay, that makes sense, I just didn't know the calculation.
yeah. So,
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank
joining,
you.
or running. Did you, was it elected?
run,
You had
yeah.
to run.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
we
Yes.
appreciate
Yes.
that.
I ran against two fierce competitors, me, myself. And I won. So,
Good job.
You know how that works.
How many, year, two, 3?
3 years.
She's got 2 more years to go.
Nice. Good.
We'll see if I run again after that.
We appreciate it, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Everybody said
Thank you,
aye.
Deb.
I will.
Yep.
Good to see you.
You too.
Have a nice night.
You too.
So, just quickly, oh, you know what, I just had the review schedule pulled up. I can pull up the other one, but just to quickly go over the rest of the agenda items, we had, the review of the school budget meeting, and just to quickly touch on that, because most of us were there, and it's available for, review, but I just wanted to say that I was pleased that the school invited us, that they had an open meeting, that they invited the 3-member communities. I think that was a moving forward step over last year. The interactive communication was helpful. And they also, in their budget review, they didn't give an actual, they haven't completely finalized their budget, but they mentioned some of the high-level challenges that are presented this year, partly as a result to increases, partly as a result to the cuts that they had to put forth last year when the override failed. And one thing that really came out that I think is noteworthy is that these budget shortfalls and struggles are irrespective of the new school building. I think that the thing that is kind of difficult to swallow as a taxpayer is that we funded the new school, you got that, and now you're asking for more money, which was everybody's fear. And if you watch the budget presentation, and I would encourage everybody to go onto the PRSD website and find the meeting from the 24th, possibly. And it's on our YouTube as well, thank you. Then it's worth seeing and it's worth informing yourself, because I do believe that the school is going to be asking for funds that are well beyond our budget capability. And so I do think that there's going to be an override presented. So the earlier and the more information that you can get on that, so that you can have time to ask questions, time to get comfortable with the questions that are on the table and the potential funding or not funding, I think is very important. So that was the school budget meeting.
They sent in, where's their, they also have, they have a website, kentuckybudget.com, that they'll keep continually updating and adding things, so I think everything, the slides will be there. And there's an FAQ portion where they answered a lot of the common questions as well.
Yep. And and one thing that they really encourage too is, if you have questions, ask. And if there's something that you're uncomfortable with, ask. And, we're trying to just get accurate information out there so that we have informed residents. I think that if there's going to be a budget shortfall, it is what it is, and it's okay to present the information and let the residents make informed choices and decide how we're going to move forward. So there's going to be more discussions and more budget meetings. So keep your eyes on the school sites and our sites about that. So the meeting minutes that we tabled last time was from December.
Somebody thought they were November 6th.
Oh, yeah, November 16th. 11/16/22, Finance Board meeting minutes.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes for November 16th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, and any other further discussion? No? All in favor?
Only certain of us can vote.
Yep, if you weren't there, then you can abstain. So I don't believe you were there. I think it was the three of us.
Right.
So,
Yep.
so those are accepted, thank you. And then, do you have any other, well, aside from the fact that you handed this out, which we'll review, and you emailed us the results from the wage and classification study, which will be, I think, we got that this afternoon. I haven't had time to review it and absorb the
Barely.
information in it, but that's going to be an ongoing discussion.
And there was a discrepancy with the public health nurses' hourly rate currently and what was reported on the wage classification, so I'm updating that now.
Okay. And, anything not anticipated, or does anyone have anything else? The next meeting and agenda should be, February 15th at 5 o'clock, which will be the Fire Department, Conservation Commission / Community Preservation, the accountant, the treasurer, and we still need to review the town administrator budgets, but we can do that over time.
And if I could just add and reinforce your point about information, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the street about the school budget. And I encourage everyone that if you're confused or you have doubt, if you're hearing conflicting stories, don't go to your neighbor's mailman's brother, niece. Go directly to the source. Go to the school. Go to the website, ask the questions from them. They're the people that'll know the answers. They're the people that'll tell you the truth. They're the people that won't misrepresent or misinform you.
It's true, it's important. It's important information, it's important decisions to be made. I think the school is going to have difficult decisions to be made, to make. no matter what override does or does not happen. The other thing that's just important to know, if there is an override put forth, that as far as the school budget needs to be approved by 2 of the 3 towns, member towns. So if 2 towns approve an override and our town doesn't, we need to pay our assessment, our school assessment, without having the additional tax revenues to do that,
Well,
which equals serious budget cuts throughout the town. So there's a lot to keep informed of and a lot to discuss. So,
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:15.
No.
is anyone going to second that motion?
I'll second it.
No, I was surprised that Jim didn't.
Any other discussion? No, we're all good. All in favor to adjourn? Thank you all so much.
That's why it was so important, that meeting Monday. I saw you were on the